Hi, Gary Chillingworth here for Airgun World Magazine, Shooting and Country TV. Welcome to Life at the Range. I do apologise the fact that our video is a couple of days late, but believe it or not, I'm back at work. I'm back on nights. I'm not quite driving trains yet, but I'm walking around the yard and prepping units and doing all stuff like that. Thank you, Mr. Plane. And it sort of messed up my filming schedule. So we're a few days late, but please accept my apologies. Right, so what are we looking to do today? Today we are going to look at four ways of improving your shooting. These are basically very, very simple steps to help improve your scores in HFT, FT, pretty much whatever type of shooting you do. And because I have the memory of a goldfish, I've got it written down and I just want to make sure I get it right. Give me one sec. Where have I put my bit of paper? Oh, there it is. Okay, the first tenet, and it's actually a really important one, is aim small, miss small. Basically, if you're shooting at a large target and that large target is a kill, you'll get used to shooting to a large target. So we're going to go through a few tips and drills to basically train your brain into aiming at a small target. Aim small, miss small. Our second one is head position, head position, head position. Now I know we've gone through that before, but it's always worth talking about how parallax error and getting your head position wrong can really affect the accuracy of your shots. Our third one is check your ranges. We did a really good little test at Malden District the other day where I wrote down what I thought all the ranges were, and then we went through and we laser range found them, and we'll talk about how good or bad I was. And first, the final one is know your rules and know your ranges. You'd be amazed at how many people turn up at an HFT event, they shoot a target and go, oh yeah, that was a 15 mil, I shot it at 30 yards. Whereas they can only go out to 25. So know your rules and know your ranges. So they're the four things we're going to go through, and let's get on with some shooting. Okay, so aim small, miss small. It's harder than it sounds. The theory is good, and it all depends on what sort of targets you're shooting at. Now, most of my targets in my garden are from flopover.co.uk or flop-over.co.uk. And this is a big old 40mm kill. So I could hit up, down, left or right and it's still going to fall over and it's going to die. So what I do is I take a 5p piece and my spray paint, and don't do it sitting over the top of your mat, you idiot. Put that over the top like that, give it a spray, let it dry, get rid of that, and then I'm sure you can see in there you've now got a mark, and that is what you aim at. And you can tell whether or not you've missed that mark because of the fact you start chipping the paint away. So even if you've got a big kill on a target, make it smaller to shoot at. The other thing that I really like, and I use these a lot, I got sent some free samples, and to be honest with you, I liked them so much I bought another huge lump of them. I bought, how many did I buy? About 25 quid's worth, and these are like 30p each. Each one of these has got 250 of these tiny little dots, and when you put them out at 25 yards, 20 yards, or if you're in your garden 15 yards, whatever you want to do, you can see exactly how close you're getting to the centre. One thing is, you see these little lines, if you're shooting at 40 yards you're going to struggle to see those. So what I do is I take a Sharpie, and that dot you see in the middle, I just fill that in. So I just go over it with a Sharpie, just go like that and do 20 or 30 at a time, and that's how I practice. So aim small, miss small. But what we're going to do is we're going to set one of these targets out now at 25 yards, and we're going to talk about a couple of things that can actually improve or ruin your day. So let's get this target put out and do some shooting. Okay, so we've got our target set out at 25 yards, and a really good test to start with is you often see at a competition people will fire 3 or 4 shots off before their gun comes on. It could be the fact that if they've got a knock open valve, or they're unregulated, they're trying to get into the sweet spot, they're charging up the regulator, or if they've got a spring gun, if they're not warming up the internals. So this gun has not been fired since last week at King's Landing for the round 5 of the Southern Hunters, and then it was absolutely spot on, but it has not been touched. So let's whip it out the bag, we'll shoot some pellets, and let's see whether or not it's bang on out of the box, or if it takes a few shots to warm up. I actually don't know. I've always shot 4 or 5 shots to warm the rifle up. I honestly don't know if it's good straight out the bag. So this is actually something I'm quite interested in. Right, we're going to shoot second line down, 25 yards, memory of a goldfish. Okay, just above there. Let's see. That always helps. That's another good tip. Always take your lens cap off. Okay, so that looks fractionally low, but it's absolutely straight as a die. So let's do 3 or 4 moving along that line. That still would have been a kill though. Okay. There we go, that one looks spot on. So it looks like the first 2 were a little bit funky. So I'll tell you what, let's do another 3, so another 2, so we've got 5 in total, and see how we go from there. Last one. I pulled that one a little left, but there you go. Our first 2 shots hit a little bit low, and then the next 3 bang 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 bang. So it looks like whatever grease we've got in here, which is molly and all that, it just needed a couple of shots just to warm up. So a good test we could do in the future is leave it for 5 minutes. Let's say there was a ceasefire or something like that, take a shot again, and then we'll see whether or not it's cooled down. So that if you were on a 15mm, 25 yards, someone calls a ceasefire, you're there for 5 or 10 minutes while they're checking it, replacing targets, whether or not you need to fire a couple of off before you get that level of accuracy back. That's with a spring gun, you need to check your PCP, but that's something that we've learned. Now the other thing is, we've said aim small, miss small. So we're practicing on that target. So if I lived in a house where I had a garden where I only had 18 or 20 yards, I'd say, well, I'm a 40-yard shoot, you know, HFT goes out to 40, 45 yards, FT goes out to 55 yards. But if you practice on that kind of target and you're getting that level of accuracy, it won't help you learn your wind at 40, 45 yards. But what you can do is you can practice things like coming up the peg. So let's shoot next line down. Let's do 3 out of the peg, and these will not be as good. Okay, not bad. And we'll do another one. Pulled it slightly. Now this is something that I'm also learning from shooting paper. Now I'll be honest with you, it's something that I already know that I do because of my head position, and this is something we're going to come on to in a minute. I always go slightly left when I'm up the peg, or I'm doing a kneeling or a standing or supported. So to try and prove that point, I will now give it the windage, sorry, not the windage, but I will now give it, I will aim to the right hand side of the target, and hopefully it should now hit dead center, because that is how I know that I shoot. And I learned that through shooting paper. If I'd have been shooting a target like that, or even a 15mm, I never would have known that I'm always pulling left hand side when I shoot up the peg, or a supported stander, or a supported kneeler, or something like that. By shooting paper consistently, I know that everything I shoot on those, I go left. So aim small, miss small, and watch where you land. Okay, our next thing we want to talk about is head position. Now, head position is so important when you're coming to HFT. Now, as you can see, I'm laying here and I've got my head on my raised cheek piece, and I'm using an eye cup. The eye cup touches the right hand side there. The left hand, it touches off the inside of my nose, and I know that on the cheek piece, I know roughly where I place my cheekbone and not the soft bit. So I'm coming down, I'm checking my, let me come over here. So I'm coming down, first of all I put my cheekbone on the target, I then have that touching around where I know, and then I push my face forward until the bridge of my nose pushes against the hard bit. So my head now has 3 points of contact. And shooting on the flat, that is absolutely fine. The problem is when we start going up into a target like that, with this setup I can still tell that I'm exactly in the same position. But if you look, my head there is different to my head there, the angle of my neck and the way it's pushing. So my eye will be looking through this on a different way. So if you are using if you are looking through a scope that does not have a maximizer, and I'm not recommending that you go out and buy a scope maximizer because they're not for everyone, you need to be able to find a way that you can be sure that you are looking through the center of your scope every single time. Now, what a lot of people do, and what the great Pete Dutton used to do, and this is the first time I heard of it, is when you look through your scope like that, and you pull your head back, and I suggest you get a scope and you try this, that as you draw your head back you will see a black line that will go around the scope, or around the image, and essentially you're looking like the inside of a tube. And what you can do is you can put your head into a position where that black line is perfectly circular, and if you shoot and that's perfectly circular, then you are going to be in the center of, looking through the center of the scope. Another good trick, if you want to practice making sure you get your head in the right position every single time, is if you take a piece of card, and preferably not a manky one, a piece of card or a piece of tin foil, and you block off the entire back side of your scope, and you have a small hole, I'll put a picture up, a small hole in the center of the card, so that every time you put your head to the scope, you know if you're looking at card or if you're looking through the hole. So essentially you're reducing the ocular end from that size down to that size. Now, it's not legal to have those in HFT. You can't have one of them permanently on your scope to make sure, pardon me, that you look through the centre. But as a training aid, if you're sitting there and you pick up your scope, shut your eyes, look through, then open your eye, and if you're looking through dead centre every time without having to move your head, you know that you've built up that level of consistency. So it's a really good training aid. Okay, so the next really important thing to do is to check how good you are at range finding. You can be the best shooter in the world. You can hit the bullseye every single time in all wind conditions. In HFT, if you can't range find by eye, or in field target, if you can't dial in accurately, you're always going to be aiming at the wrong point. If you put your 40-yard aim point in a 30-yard target, you're going to miss, you're going to miss. So a good test, and you've got to get permission from your club to do this, and luckily Richard at Malden District gave me permission to do this. Check your ranges. Now, I shot at the Mad Monthly, and I'll put the things up here, and as you can see, let's just do our first row. Peg 1. Now, I use the head bob technique. I use head bob, and also if you can, measure from the centre of the kill down to the top of the hinge, or you could measure the faceplate, or you could measure the hinge. There's lots of things you can do, and you've got to work out what works best for you. Some people measure kill sizes, although the days of having all 30mm kills and 35mm kills are gone. There are lots of 32s out there and 33s. People also do put bigger hinges on, so all of this is not a hard and fast rule, but find a way that you range find and see how accurate it is. So I'll put the things up here. We'll just look at the first 15. On the left hand side is what I shot it at, and on the right hand side is when we went round again with a laser rangefinder, and with Richard, who actually knew all the ranges because he set the course, we can see how good we were. So peg 1, I shot it at 34, it was 37. Peg 2, 21, 22. Peg 3, 11, and it was 12. Peg 4, I totally got that wrong. I shot that at 40 and it was 35. I was 5 yards out and I missed it. Peg 5, 38, and it was 40. Peg 6, 31 and 30. Peg 7, I got that right, 45 and 45. Peg 8 was also 45 and 45. Sometimes course setters will put a 45-yard target out, then put one next to it and make everybody think, oh, we wouldn't put two 45s next to each other. Yeah, if you're evil like Richard, you do. Peg 9, 37, 38. Peg 10, 16, 18, 2 yards out, but they'll still go in. 11, 35 and 35, that was the free kneeler, I think, so it's always probably going to be 35. Peg 12, 40 and 40, 45 and 44, 45 and 45, 15, 17. Now the next lot, not as good. Now, as you can see here, I started on peg 1. Because of the gammy leg, I was getting tired by the end of the course. And as you can see, 45, that's really blurry, 45 and 38, 36 and 40, 29 and 35. I completely got those wrong. But this is what you need to do. It's no good just to continue shooting and thinking that's improving. Shooting sports are two-part. They're range finding and they're the physical ability to shoot. Also, laying here on the range, just shooting prone targets, I'm good at that. I can go up and down here all day long and knock the targets down. We've got 6 supported shots, 4 unsupported kneelers and standers, or 1 stand only, and then 2 free kneelers and free standards. That is 6 points on a course, the difference between a 54 and a 60. So I can kill every prone target, and I'm still only coming in with a maximum of 54, and that's if I kill everything. So you need to spend time here making sure that everything is going down, but we really need to spend time with a supported target, and that is on a tree, on a post, kneeling down, doing reverse kneelers, doing all the different things that you can do to get better. So hopefully that will help. Okay, so we've had to take a little break. Apologies. I don't know if any of you noticed, but I was a little bit tired when we were working outside. This first week of nights has absolutely battered me. So yeah, physically a bit tired, and the older grey matter is a bit slushy. So the final thing we want to talk about is when you turn up to an HFT event, it's really important to know your rules, and not just the overall rules, but the distances you can shoot out to. Now, everybody knows, you know, the basics, you know, they're written everywhere, you know, but do you know how many targets can go out to certain distances and things like that? And if you plan and you actually work your way around the course, you know, well, hang on, I've already shot 6 15 mils, so that one that looks like a 50 mil, well, that's probably a 20 mil, and that might now, that will go out to 30 yards, so you can plan. So what we'll do is we'll put them up on either of the sides, just so you know, so that you can take a screenshot or write them down. A 15 to 19 millimeter target can go from 13 to 25 yards, and you can have between 4 and 6 of those. A 20 to 24 millimeter target can go from 8 to 30 yards, and you're allowed 2 of those. A 25 to a 34 millimeter target from 8 to 40 yards, and you're allowed 4 of those on a course. And 35 millimeter or bigger, and you do still occasionally see the odd 40 mil knocking around, obviously can go from 8 to 45 yards, and they can make up for the vast majority of the rest of the prone targets. But this is where it can start getting a little bit confusing. Supported shots. Now they're broken up into 2. They're broken up into unsupported, and they're easy. Unsupported stander, you can identify that by a little 4-inch peg. Obviously you can't use any supports or anything like that, it's just freestanding, 8 to 35 yards. An unsupported kneeler, also 8 to 35 yards, also with a short peg. Now you've then got kneel or stand, and you've got one each of the supported and you've got one each of the unsupported kneeler and the unsupported stander on a standard 30-shot course for UK HFT. You've then got another 4 targets, and these are broken up into 2 stand-only targets and 2 kneel or stand targets. So the stand-only, nice and simple, they can be either a 25 millimeter, and they can go out to a maximum of 30 yards, or the other stand-only target can be a 35 millimeter, and that can go out to 35 yards. A kneel or stand, and let me just double check with this because, you know, old. A kneel or stand can be shot either kneeling or standing. Now, sometimes when you're on the course, you might see kneel only. If it says kneel only, you can still stand it. All kneeling shots can be shot standing, but standing shots can't be shot kneeling. A 25 to a 34 millimeter target can be 8 to 30 yards. But a 35 millimeter or bigger target can go out to 40 yards, and that was a rule that was brought in a few years ago. So they're all of your basic ranges that you'll get for HFT. Now, we've gone over things like the way you kneel and, you know, those kind of rules, but that's not what we're doing today. We're talking about using those rules and knowing those distances to improve your shooting. And just knowing those basics and having a little crib sheet with you. So, you know, you can tick targets off and things like that if you want to. It's not commonly done, but you can use it to work out what could be coming up and what could be next. That's about it when it comes to, you know, knowing your distances for targets. Obviously, FT is different. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our video for today, and I genuinely, as ever, hope you found it useful. We looked at our 4 main tenets of, you know, improving your HFT score. You know, our first tenet is aim small, miss small. Our second tenet is head position, head position, head position. Just get your head in that correct position every time. No word of a lie, I genuinely put head position above trigger control. you know, and trigger control is incredibly, you know, impressive. Terry Doe says that, and follow through. That, I mean, that's something we really, you know, maybe should have talked about, but that's going to be another video. That when you aim and you pull your trigger, keep your head locked on and see that pellet fly. Think about your trigger, think about the flight of the pellet. You don't want to go bang, have a look. So trigger control is important, but that's something we're going to cover in another video. So aim small, miss small. Someone's shooting out about that. Aim small, miss small. Head position, head position, head position. And can you range find? Speak to your local club. One thing that was done many, many years ago, and it was a really fun thing to do, and speak to your local club about possibly doing this. When your rangefinders, when your call setters go out, get them to actually write down every single range of every single target. And get you and all your friends to take a second card out and write all the ranges down. And then at the end of the comp, they can post the distances, and you can see how well or bad you did. And I guarantee you, it's quite a scary thing to do. So that's something it will certainly be worth, you know, talking to your call setters around and to your club. And then finally, just know your rules. I'm not joking about this. The amount of times I've spoken to people, and some people who aren't newbies, people who've been shooting a long time, and they've gone, oh yeah, that supported kneeler. Oh yeah, I dropped out the bottom of that. I can't work out why. And I'll say, oh, what did you shoot at? So I shot it at 35. I said, well, it's probably 40. And they went, well, kneelers can't go out to 40. Yes, they can. So keep on top of your rules. Go to the UKHFT rules page, and don't just look at the rules page, look at the course setting guides, because the course setting guides is where you'll get all your information. I will put a link in the description below where you can go to the rules and to the course setting guides. Well, that's about it. I hope to see you all again very, very soon. This is coming out on Saturday. And hopefully tomorrow we're going to be shooting at Maze, and I'm going to continue shooting with this Falcon S10i, which I've really been enjoying. So if you would actually like a video on the Falcon, let me know, and we'll put that on the list. But hopefully the next video I shall be less tired, be more used to what I'm doing back at work, and that's about it. But you take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you all again on the range very, very soon. Ta-da!